Good morning, everybody. I am here with my friend and colleague and genius CEO and founder, Sonia Narvaez. And we are back for Leadership Live Fridays after several weeks off. I have quite an adventure to share with you at some point. I will do that later in the month, but it's suffice it to say, so exciting for many reasons. Number one, Sonia's here and she's brilliant and you're going to love her. Number two, today is our first day after many months of waiting to be approved that we are streaming live on LinkedIn. So, hey, LinkedIn, so exciting. Super fun. And I'm just thrilled to be back doing this program again. It's one of my favorite things to do, to highlight amazing world-changing leaders who are in my own backyard here and across the world. So, Sonia, welcome to Leadership Live.
Hi, Merritt. It's so good to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. Happy Friday. There's
Happy
nothing
Friday.
Friday with this wonderful live, so I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. We always start these conversations with a story. And so I would invite you now to tell your story. How did you get to where you are? What do you want us to know about you?
All right. So, hi, everyone. I'm Sonia Narvaez, and I am the CEO and founder of Operation QOL. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself before I tell you a little bit about what we do at QOL. I am actually a Hudson Valley native. I was born and raised in this area, and I am a first-generation Latina. Both my parents emigrated from South America. They somehow ended up in the small town of Kerhonkson at the same time, and it was bliss from then on. I grew up, was born and raised in this area, and so I am very familiar with nature and everything around this town. So I'm very much in love with it. Like, I absolutely adore, the normal activities that we do out here, like hiking and walking around and the small town feel. That was always what I was kind of growing up with. I went to college at Stony Brook University, and I obtained a bachelor's in health sciences with a concentration of public health. Growing up, I was very much steered in the direction of becoming a doctor. That happens very often growing up in an immigrant family. They steer you in you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a high-powered, engineer. It's those types of mentalities that you kind of grow up with. What I always definitely wanted to be was a boss. Very bossy as a child. And I am still very bossy sometimes, my assistant will tell you.
So now we call that leadership skills.
Yes, we call that leadership skills. I absolutely love it. So, and I'm going to have to say too, I just want to plug you in there, Merritt. That was something I learned while we were working together. That difference between leadership and bossy. That was not something that was very common in the culture, as well as even the work culture that we have. So after I finished my bachelor's in public health, I actually went to pursue a master's in public health in Chicago. So I went to the University of Illinois at Chicago. I pursued a master's in public health with a concentration in community health sciences and global health, because I've always loved the world and traveling. And so I thought global health was a great way of learning more and more about it. And then I kind of pursued working in healthcare clinics, healthcare startups. I really, really tried to focus in on being in that public health niche. But what I started to realize was I was very unhappy, very, very unfulfilled. I was making good money. I was living a good life in the city, but I was incredibly unfulfilled. There was so much missing for me. And so what I did was I came back here to my hometown, and I decided to pursue working and building my own business. And I was like, well, what do I know? I know how to be an assistant. So I can try to do that. And so I did. I started a business called Socially Passionate Consulting, and it was a virtual assistant firm. And I worked with different types of entrepreneurs, helping them and assisting them in different tasks. Now, what I realized was I didn't really care for the work. It wasn't like everything to me. And so even though I was running my own company, I was a boss, the work wasn't it. And I also realized there was this gap. There was this gap between this entrepreneur that I was working with and this assistant role that I was taking. The entrepreneur was always just kind of throwing things on me. There was never this middle of like planning or getting farther, or like it was just kind of a reaction. And in public health, we're proactive. Like that's one thing we love doing. We love being proactive. We want to help you be healthier before you get sick. So one of the things that I realized was I started to see that, and then I was like, you know what? Let me niche down in and start working in operations. And so I started Operation QOL. Operation QOL stands for quality of life, because in public health, we really, really love and like think about your quality of life. A lot of the proactivity we do, it is to increase and help you have a better quality of life. So it's funny because, one of the things I'm actually most passionate about are both of those things, operations and quality of life. So one of the things that I focus on is working with altruistic entrepreneurs to improve their quality of life, give them more time, give them more space to be creative, to think, to love, to learn, achieve that higher quality of life through, building their business operations, helping them streamline their company, making it more efficient, more effective, and help them scale. And to me, one of the reasons I'm so passionate about operations is because operations is everything and anything that has to do with the business, but it is support. It is care. It is everything and anything we do in a business for our clients, for our staff, for customers, for everybody involved. There's a level of care that you always want to do things with. Mm-hmm. And so that to me was like, I love it because I'm a caregiver. Like I have a natural caregiver tendency. So that was one thing that I really always have loved. I have always thought about being passionate. I've always been passionate about. And operations and those skills that I have always been a way for me to kind of share that. So that is kind of my story, like, what I'm passionate about. I definitely think that it's something that every day I am just so grateful for being able to work in.
I so appreciate the way you have interwoven your passions for helping people, your story about your parents focusing you in some high level professional way, your drive to lead, to be the boss, but to lead, and how you have really synthesized your understanding of what it means to have a high quality of life from the public health perspective, but also from the individual perspective. Mm-hmm. And your experience with working with these entrepreneurs who, the way you described it was so perfect. It's like, yeah, when we start out, or we're just like, I don't know what to do, and I don't have time to do it, so here, do this, right? It's like, right. And I mean, I certainly had that experience myself when I started. I was like, and as we grow, we as founders, right, mm-hmm. we still have that kind of, some of us actually kind of like that energy of like chaos, right?
I love chaos. It's so funny. I'm sorry. I just have to because like chaos is like, there is controlled chaos. And like we all, like, I think deep down, we all kind of really want controlled chaos, some of us. But we still want chaos. Like it's still part of that. And letting go as an owner and as a founder, and really like, there is like such a difference between those titles, right? Founder, owner, CEO. So many entrepreneurs, altruistic entrepreneurs that I work with, they're such great people. They're such wonderful, they have passions, they have dreams, and they act as owners and they act as founders. But moving them into that CEO role mm-hmm. is not just putting systems and processes in place. It's thinking about, all right, how's your quality of, like, what does high quality of life mean to you? And it really is thinking about how to integrate what their core values are, what their what their object, like all of those things as a planner that I have to think about in the future. we have to integrate all of those things. So it's really exciting to have chaos, to be honest, but then like adding those little steps to make it controlled is even better.
Well, and so the chaos, and I find this a lot with people I work with too, and certainly, I mean, I'll talk to myself. There is the element of chaos feels creative. So it's like a small problem. I can be effective, and that feels like it fuels that creative, generative need, right? At the same time, though, if you perpetuate chaos forever, you're always going to be a little off kilter. You won't be able to really grow and thrive because you're always going to be knocking yourself off kilter, right? So, and that's something that, I mean, I think is a common thread in a lot of my clients and your clients and the people that we all work with, or the people that are out there. So if you're hearing this out there, folks, chaos is okay for a little while.
Absolutely.
You really need someone like Sonia herself to come and help and rein you in and get you focused so that you can really do the work that you're meant to do on a large scale. You said something earlier too about quality of life. So that what does quality of life mean to them? And I imagine that's different for every individual to an extent. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, one of the things I ask all of my clients and that I make sure I understand about all of my clients is, what are your personal long-term goals and objectives? What are your business long-term goals and objectives? And then understanding what those, like how those intersect, as well as like, how do we build this business so that you can achieve not just the business goals, but your personal goals? Because what people like, yes, a business is your baby, and it may or may not always be your baby, but the baby also grows up, right? The baby will always grow up. The baby will take on its own personality, and then you're going to be kind of left. It's like that empty nest syndrome, right? When you have an empty nest, you start to realize, well, like, wait, who am I? Who am I if this is not my identity? If I am not a business owner, who am I? And that's like an important question because it goes into quality of life. So many of my clients, they will get that time back. They will get that space. And then they will ask themselves, well, who am I without chaos? Who am I without my business depending on me? Like, and then it's, you know, then I'm like, talk to Merritt. Like, I can't help you. I'm sorry.
Who am I?
Yeah.
So I have a couple of thoughts about that. The first one is that really speaks to our topic today, which is claiming your genius. Yes. And that what we meant when we come up with that title was, you know, standing in what you are so good at and what lights you up and how that positively affects those you lead and your mission and your purpose in your business and your life. What do you see happening out there in terms of that? Like people who are having trouble claiming that genius, and when they do, what's the contrast there?
So so one thing that is important, a lot of people, they think they know what they're good at, and what they're good at usually is what their business is centered around, right? Like I love operations. So I've built a business all around operations, and I have placed people on my team so that I can do just the things I love to do. I mean, don't get me wrong. The other 20%, there's things I have to do that I don't want to do, but I will have to do that. But I am trying to make it so that 80% of my time, I am claiming that genius. I am working in that zone. I find myself and the business owners that are able to sit in their zone of genius, they're happier, they're more in flow, they get more done, they're much more productive, they have a higher quality of life. They create things that they would never have been able to create if they were boss, secretary, finance, marketing. Like if they have to do all of these things, the brain space that they have, like it doesn't allow for them to have that creativity. So when they're able to sit in that zone of genius or claim their genius, they skyrocket. It's like that phoenix, right? The phoenix undergoes that burn, and like they're this beautiful bird, and like that bird is fire everywhere. You can see it. And so when you have when I see a client transform from someone who was like, I'm doing everything, I'm trying to do all of these things, I'm working towards this, and I don't necessarily know like what it is I love to do yet because I haven't had time. There's people who just don't have time to figure out, like, I'm really good at this, but I really love this. And if they're good and they love it, it's like the Eisenhower matrix, right? So if, what is it, like, you're good, or I'm going to tweak it, but if you look at those box structures,
Yeah.
you're good, like, like, bad at, kind of thing, those things, when they can find that one circle or that one box that is, they're great at it and they love it, like, that just transforms them into that phoenix. And the business can skyrocket. Once we put people in place around you that can take care of the other things that are necessities, foundations, right? Like, I'm not the best, right? I'm good at finance, but, like, I don't really love doing finance. So I have someone to help me with those things. I don't have to focus on it. All I have to do is get a report and somebody can tell me how the health of my business is. So when you're able to claim your genius, or go from not being, like, doing all the things, not being able to sit in that space, to claiming your genius, your business, your people, and even in your personal life, you feel it. Like, there's just this level of joy. And that is, I think, something that is so important. That's everyone's, like, happy and, like, fulfilled, but I think really joy kind of has both of those things in place. It is a word that really defines, or, has a little bit of both of those in there. So seeing the differences in how their business runs, but in addition, how their life runs, is extremely rewarding. Once you can focus on claiming that genius, there's so much space to grow.
And even when you were talking earlier about how you decided to, you could see the gap and then you decided to fill the gap and then you decided to niche down, like, that genius can be really specific.
Absolutely. People are so scared of that.
Yeah.
They're like, if I'm not doing everything that has to do with this, then, like, am I a business? And I'm like, no. The more niche you actually get, the more impact you can create. So if I were to go, a little bit farther into that, the social impact that people can create.
Thank you for that segue. So organized. I love it.
I know it. I just can't help it. I'm like, I'm step by step.
Perfect.
The process brain in me. So as a leader, the impact you can create when you're in that zone of genius, it is 20 times, but we could take Brene Brown, right? When she started out kind of speaking more and more about a lot of different topics. She researched a lot. It was very broad. She now talks so much more about resilience and bravery and, like, all of these other things that are happening that go into it. But this is her niche. She talks about all of those things. Her talks are so much more powerful. They're more impactful because she is so much more comfortable in this. She knows exactly where she's going, and she feels good in the process. And so when I work with my clients and they can go from being this person who's doing all of these things, this type, like, even as a leader to their staff, they're exhausted. They can't give them their best. When they're in this zone of genius, they can take it so much further. The people around them, this other kind of, this joy that they're feeling. And so it trickles. So there really is this huge impact that when you claim your zone of genius, you can not only affect the people around you, but your messaging, your impact, the effect you have on the people that you serve is huge. And I see it now in clients that I have that are, we're slowly bringing them into what they love to do. And I see how they are now interacting with people. And it's just, there's a level of peace and joy that they now feel because of that. So it's beautiful,
right?
Yes.
It's such a relief. Yeah,
absolutely. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So, so let's talk a little bit more about what it means to be an altruistic entrepreneur that you work with. And because you said you started in public health and you had that impulse to serve. And by the way, before I get into the last part of this question, I want to mention that if anybody wants to have ask Sonia a question or me a question, go ahead and put it in the comments. It does seem, unfortunately, we're having some trouble with LinkedIn, so we'll come back on LinkedIn later and we'll post this. But at any rate, so tell me a little bit more about what you see in terms of the impact that these social entrepreneurial enterprises have when they are claiming their genius.
So there is a level of, I guess you could say, transformational like impact that they can make for their clients and their people. So I've worked with a whole bunch of different businesses. I've worked with construction industries, food businesses, student tutoring businesses. Like I have a huge area. What I love, it's not necessarily about what they're doing, their business, but about who they are as a person. So when I say altruistic entrepreneur, what I'm looking for is people who do good things, people who want to do good, people who want to do good things, really. And the impact that good people want to do is really good, so the impact they make is typically positive. So one of the things for me, what I see as my vision is, I'm more of an introvert, actually. I love being behind the scenes. Operations is amazing because of that, because I can do that. Typically, a lot of my clients are extroverts. They're visionaries. They have like these dreams. And what I love to see is when they get to be and claim in their zones, or be in their zone and claim their zones, their legacy or their impact is transformational, because not only can they give you not only are they niched enough that they're specific, but that their messaging brings change. So, one of the things that I think is really important to say is, like, people don't resist change, they resist being changed. But as a person, you, like, as an individual, you see, like, hey, these are all of the things that can result of my change, of growing, of, listening to this person, like this entrepreneur. Like, if I'm listening to them, these are all the things that can happen. These are all the changes that can happen. You're more open to changing as a person. And so that, like, is much more like what the altruistic entrepreneur can do is much more transformational, because they're so niche down, because they're speaking your language, because they have that space for creativity to try and figure out how to get to you, and make sure that their messaging is getting through to you. So, that is one thing that I really love, that I love working and giving that space to altruistic entrepreneurs, because I'm an introvert. So in helping them succeed, it's like we're pushing this good message in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just wrote that down in the comments. People don't resist change, they resist being changed.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere and I was like, that's it. Because everybody thinks like, no, I can make these changes. And operations, we do have to make changes, because if everything was working, then you wouldn't need me.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, so what that really speaks to is that sense of agency, right? In my work, we talk a lot about victim consciousness, and not that people are a victim. That's not a label. It's a way of being in the world that shows up sometimes when we start feeling like our agency is being taken away from us, right? Without our permission. And that can be from, a trauma. It can be from feeling overwhelmed with the weight of the world. It can be, right? But essentially it has to do with not feeling like you're in control of yourself and you're not in charge of your decisions. And that's exactly what that speaks to. Like, if I can make the decision to change, I'm good with that. But if somebody wants to change me, nope. No, not without my permission, right?
Yes.
Not without my inviting me in. Yeah.
I think that's huge.
All right, my dear. Well, we are wrapping up our time here this morning, and we always ask at the end of our conversations, and thank you so much, by the way, for having this wonderful conversation with us.
Thank you.
Our group, our audience. this is the golden nugget that one, if you could leave one little gem for our audience today, what would that be?
It's going to be cheesy, but it's going to be,
Usually is, and that's okay.
It's going to be claim your genius.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to first, don't be afraid to realize what you love to do and what you're good at. And don't be afraid to niche down into that and let go of other things. Mm-hmm. There is no shame in doing less. And I think right now there's a huge, this hustle mentality, my calendar has to have every single second booked or else I'm not doing enough. Once you claim your genius, once you work in that flow, things feel easier. Mm-hmm. Much more peace. There's so much space. And so there's this shame that actually comes with claiming that genius that I want people to just shed. So claim that genius, focus on what you want to do, put the people in place, and you'll see this transformation.
And what would you say to people who say, but Sonia, I can't afford to have help, or I need to be doing all the things myself because they won't do it right if I don't do it, right? It won't get done right. What would you say to them?
Absolutely. I mean, I hear that all the time. And you know what? I'm going to take a book from your, I'm going to take a page from your book, and it's something I feel like I know what you're going to say, which is let go. Because you know what? They could do it better.
Ooh.
Yeah, like people are like, no one can talk to my customers the way I talk to them. And I'm like, oh, actually, no, this assistant is better than you. And they feel more loved, and like they know how to tweak at their heartstrings better than you, or same thing. This graphic design, no one can make my things the way I make them, my pictures. Actually, no, this graphic designer who's really good, like she makes them so much better. So, and that is them claiming their genius. Mm-hmm. So the more you can because a lot of that is ego. I'm not even gonna lie. A lot of that is ego. I'm the only one who can do it the best. Mm-hmm. No. If that was true, you know what I mean? Like everything would be perfect for you. And it's not. Right. And so those are also some hard truth. Like operations it's a hard truth as well. I think everything is. I'm sure in your while you're working with your clients, you have to give them a little dose of reality. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that is how I would respond to that. You're not better than all of these other people to try. Like you can let go.
And what I keep hearing you say in different ways is when you focus on what you love and what you're good at, it becomes easier and more joyful.
Yes.
And that is the goal. I was talking to my group mastermind yesterday about this. The goal of life is not to grind and struggle and be miserable and then end your life, sick and right. That's not the goal here. The goal
even
is
if you have a pile of money next to you, even if you've made all the money you want to make, if you are miserable,
who cares? Like, what's the point of all that? So it's not to say that there won't be challenge and struggle and heartbreak. Of course there will. I mean, life happens and we learn from a lot of that stuff too. But when we are actually in, as you said, in the flow of our work, when we really let go of all the other stuff that we think we need to control and just land in the place that makes us feel good about who we are and what we do, it creates so much space. Yeah. And so much more space for abundance and impact. We get to really focus on what we're good at and have that impact that we've been striving to have for so long.
Mm-hmm. I am 100 times more effective now as an owner and as a leader and as an operations strategist than I was 8 months ago when I was trying to do something by myself. Mm-hmm. Even
All right. Well, it is 10:30. Thank you so much, Sonia, for being here today. It's I've been trying to get her on here for like a year. But it all happens perfectly in the way it's supposed to. And I'm so glad that you came here today. It's always a joy to connect with you. And Thank you for sharing your genius with our audience.
Thank you so much, Merritt. It was a pleasure to be here.
How can people get a hold of you if they are seeking your genius in their world?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can head over to my website, which was recently redone. Love it. At operationqol.com. And then if anybody has any questions or concerns, they can always email me at Sonia, Sonia, at operationqol.com.
All right. Awesome. And I wanted to just also say real quickly that Matt Silverman says, hey. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Leadership Live this morning, everyone. I really appreciate you being here. So glad to be back in this seat with another amazing genius in front of me. Newsletter. Katie. Oh, look, it's Katie. Wait, hang on a second. Katie, that was a little high. Katie and Tom. Newsletter. What does that mean, newsletter, Tom? You want a newsletter? Who do you want? Because we have so many to share. Speaking of genius, my team and I are working on a new free training called the Genius Training. And you get her email. Tom says, you get her email. And so the Genius Training is going to be coming out soon. It's a free training. It's going to be about 25 minutes or so on video with a workbook, totally free of charge for a little while until we start charging for it. So if you're interested in that, please drop Genius in the comments or shoot me a DM and we will get that to you when it comes out. It'll be just in about a week or so. All right, Sonia, thank you so much. I'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you to our audience. And have a great Friday, everybody. Take care.
Happy Friday, everyone.